Welcome to the Homeschool Together podcast. Where one working mom and a stay-at-home dad help you navigate the nuts and bolts of the growing and dynamic world of homeschooling.
With a focus on early learners, like me.
All the ins and outs of building and maintaining your homeschool life.
Homeschool.
Find out tips and tricks to make things like this easier.
I'm reading.
And ultimately, enjoy educating your kids. And what's that last thing?
Have fun together. Did I do good, Daddy?
Yeah, you did, sweetie. Good job. Hello, and welcome back to the number one secular homeschooling podcast in the world. In your mind, in your heart,
ours.
In your hearts, you know it. You know it to be true, and you know it's also more important, just as important, being supportive and thoughtful and responsible. Oh, that's a little tease for the title today. To go and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and I want you to put into the comments on the. We have the episodes where it's just the card, and you're listening to what you're listening to now on YouTube. And I want you to put into the comments below. I would love to watch Matthew and Ariel doing this very thing. And we are thinking about it. We're thinking about filming the podcast.
If you guys really want to see us sitting around talking, so we're not really sure. I feel like this is a point where
But Ariel,
if you go this far, you can't ever go back.
You're in workout attire with a hat.
I mean,
which is odd because normally people don't know. I always wear a hat.
Yeah, you always wear a hat.
And I'm in workout attire.
I just didn't want to do my hair today.
The dog is not 3 feet away from us snoozing.
Yeah.
I don't know if the people want to watch this.
Well, right. Yeah. We're thinking about, remaking our office here and filming the podcast so that you can see our talking heads. I don't know if anybody really desires to do that or not, but if you do, let us know.
Put a comment down
if it's
below.
worth it for us to do that. We've been thinking about it for a while, just because we do put this out on YouTube and we do have a number of you that listen on that platform. Yeah. And it is kind of boring just to see a card. But maybe that's just the way you consume your podcast. So
see us, my Italian gesticulations here.
Lots of
hand movements and us staring, adamantly at our notes on our iPhones and do I want to see how the sausage is made?
I don't know if everyone wants to see it or you just want to listen anyway. If you're just a listener and you don't need to watch, let us know. Let us know that too. If you are somebody who, does the listen on YouTube thing and you're really just doing it to consume your podcast and you don't have any desire to see our faces, that's cool. We're not hurt. We're thinking about doing some remodeling in here and wanted to know if it would be of interest or worth
it's going
to
determine how comfy our chairs are going to be.
Yeah, we went through a lot of chair decisions last year because we thought about recording in here and trying to get some more comfortable chairs. Right now, I sit on a desk chair and you sit on a bench where we keep all our podcast materials.
I like this bench. It has
good back support.
The good back support from the spine between our two windows, just pounding into the middle of my rhomboids. Yeah, it's wonderful. I love it.
Yeah, it works for us. But yeah, let us know. I think that's something that we're, playing around with, seeing if we think it is worthwhile.
Absolutely. So the only way to do things like big projects is to have personal responsibility.
I love how you just kind of like danzitions. If anyone ever saw the old Talk Soup, this is like danzitions. We this is something that we have been talking about with our daughter and talking about with each other for a while.
It has been a big focus of our conversation. So it's funny how, I don't know. I mean, I know everybody probably goes through similar things where you guys are listening and you're thinking, Matt, Ariel, my husband and I, or my spouse and I, and my partner and I, we talk about our education all the time. And we're always talking about like what's coming. And the last 6 months or so, we have been talking about, obviously, we've got this 8-year-old who's going to become 9, and very soon she'll be 10 next year. And
slow down.
And then she's going to be driving.
Well, I'm not ready.
And then college, and it's like, oh my gosh, it's all coming. But for us, we've been talking a lot about this responsibility and her taking on more of the, part of her education and grooming her to be this, young adult and all the skills that she needs to do that. And then looking back at us being in college, wondering, me scratching my head at the, the washer and dryer and wondering how to run these things. we're starting to think about like, okay, we got to empower her with a lot of skills and a lot of, personal responsibility and all that type of stuff.
Well, and I think part of it is that, as they get older, there's just more stuff going on, not just in homeschool, but in life. And there's more sports and activities and friends and things going on. And, we need them to carry a little bit more of the load because it's
especially as that load grows.
Much.
I mean, it's kind of funny.
That's the problem.
As they get older, there's more and more load. And the hope is that, as parents, we try to shoulder some of that for them. But then while also giving them enough to, push themselves forward and become young adults and hopefully one day become high functioning adults out there.
Well,
that's our hope.
And the thing is too, is having them have some responsibility in what we're doing and what they're doing and understanding how their actions affect the family. Right? Like this is a super simple example, but we started having our daughter fold her own laundry when she turned like 6.5, somewhere around there. I still wash it all because she would totally mix up all the colors. But
Ariel has beautiful, brown hair, but she's gotten a couple gray hairs trying to get that kid to fold her clothes.
So I have, but I was insistent because I was like, I am not folding.
It's the hill you're going to die on.
It is literally, that is the hill. Because our daughter loves to change her outfit like 5 times a day.
Oh, her sister's even worse.
Oh, yeah, her sister is worse.
I looked at clothes. It's dirty in the trash.
Oh, yeah. She'll put on something. She'll come out. She go, okay, mommy, I'm ready for school. Or, whatever. And I'm like, no. It's going to be cold out. You can't wear shorts today. And she goes, oh, okay. She runs back in the room to change and she throws those shorts in the laundry. It's like, as many times as we talk to her, it makes no difference. So laundry, it's like it breeds. It grows all the time. And so by having our daughter start to fold her own laundry, it was like the natural consequence of you throwing everything you touch into the laundry is that you have to spend an hour folding all of it.
Yeah, right.
And so just kind of sharing some
actions, consequences.
Yeah, starting to share some of that responsibility with her. And so now she's taking some personal responsibility to, not change her clothes a bunch, and, only when needed, and to, really evaluate, is this dirty or not? I mean, obviously sometimes this has backfired on us when she puts something away. I'm like, this is clearly dirty, but
I call that the Lebowski scenario.
She is a girl and she's fairly fastidious. So we're not getting too much funk going back in the drawers, but that's the kind of example of like, I mean, it's a big impact on me to not have to do that extra work. And
it's the one thing I refuse to do in this house.
Yeah. And every time I get overwhelmed with it and I call you, I'm like, Matthew. The other night we were going to bed and I'm like, I have so much laundry to fold because I had our laundry and I have to fold the little one's laundry because of course she's too young to do it. At this point, she just makes a total muck of it. It's not even worth trying. Because stuff goes everywhere. And you did take pity on me and helped me fold all the laundry.
I did. I came in.
I love you. Appreciate you.
Know. I was a wild thing. Reliever coming in.
But, we're thinking over the summer, as we've talked about a lot of the summer is this testing ground of doing new things. Like, how can we...
It is. It's the skunk works of homeschool.
It really is. It's the skunk works of life, right? Hey, it's the summer. Let's try something. So we have embarked on this quest to kind of up the personal responsibility level for both of our kids in age-appropriate ways. And it really got us thinking about, like, why should we care so much, right? Our younger daughter just turned 5. I want to instill personal responsibility in a 5-year-old. It seems like, well, that seems silly. But it's all kind of age-appropriate things like being
Get
able
dressed
to
and brush your teeth.
Brush her own teeth and just, small things. It doesn't have to be wild, but it got us thinking about like why this matters. And we did some research. And so we wanted to share with all of you some thoughts today. This is going to be a 2-parter because we've got plenty of actionable, practical stuff, but that's next episode. So we wanted to talk a little bit about how personal, responsibility can affect not only your life, but also benefit your homeschool, how you can, strategically start to ramp that up and, the goodness that can come out of that today.
Yeah. So this first kind of, main governing idea of like why personal responsibility matters, that first idea would be, develop independence and self-reliance, right? Mm-hmm. We've heard that, doing these type of things is important. for
this
us.
is a skill for life.
It's a life skills, right?
Sure.
I mean, and also there's like a lot of meaning in being able to do things on your own. There's a lot of self-rewarding thing. We're kind of a species that has like a feedback mechanism of doing things for ourselves and being,
that autonomy, that independence, our older daughter
feels good about it.
Yeah, she started to do a few things independently, and gosh, she feels amazing about herself.
She loves it,
Not about everything, she's still a little hesitant to celebrate putting away the dishes from the dishwasher, but she, there are a few things she can do for herself. Just tonight we were cooking, and I was, telling her that it was okay for her to use the big knife to do the chopping of, she was cutting potato, and she was so proud of herself that she got this opportunity. She was autonomous. She goes, oh, well, where's the kid knife? I go, no, you can use mommy's knife. And she was like,
Whoa.
oh, I thought I saw her grow like 2 inches. She was like, okay,
Yeah,
I'm going to get to do it.
happening.
So anytime they can be, have a little bit of that autonomy or independence or get to do something for themselves, it always it boosts their self-esteem.
Well, especially in the idea of problem solving, right? Kind of being able to give that opportunity to, you're right, kind of do something that they've never been able to do before. Get that self-confidence that comes from, finishing that task. Like there's so many times you see that little one, everything from like playing a game she's never played before, to doing a task outside, like, oh, daddy needs help pulling weeds. Well, I've never done that before. That seems like a lot of fun. And just that feeling of like accomplishment that comes with that. And I think it really brightens the eyes. You don't get as much of it from like, the slowly, mildly cynical 8 or 9 year old now, who's got a little bit of a sass, but man, that five-year-old, man, when she does something she's never done before, the eyes brighten right up and she feels good about herself. I love that look when you can get that to happen.
That's true. And, you've been working with our older daughter on some survival type stuff. She's very interested in what would happen if the parents all disappeared and I was in charge.
It's this great scenario.
Well, not I, but, the kids were in charge.
Her and her friends. And
how would we structure our society and how would we take care of each other? How would we care for the younger kids? And she's got this whole thing she's very interested in thinking about. She's been watching a lot of Last Kids on Earth on Netflix. And so she's very interested in this. So as part of this, you have been teaching her first aid.
I have.
And
oh man, that was so funny the other morning.
It was so funny.
Tell 'em,
So we're laying in bed. It's like 7:05. They've already been up.
We got to sleep in.
5
minutes.
Right. We're laying in bed and we can hear downstairs. We hear the door open to the outside to the backyard. We're thinking like, why do they need to go in the backyard? And then 2 minutes later,
it's Saturday. I don't care.
2 minutes later, we hear them come back in, and we hear the older one say to the younger one, okay, don't panic. I know what to do. Put pressure on it. I'll be right back.
Sister, it's bleeding.
Right. And so we're like, oh, okay. We didn't hear any like crying from the younger one, and she's a big crier. So we were like, okay, she's not critically wounded. And our older daughter, literally, she got all her first aid supplies out. We could hear her coaching her sister through, okay, sit on the chair. All right, it's going to be okay. I know what to do.
Doing all the lines,
all the calm stuff, right? She's like, just keep putting pressure on it, as if it was like a gushing wound, right? Yeah. It turned out that our younger daughter had scraped her toe on the outside patio steps when she was coming back in. It was not like a big deal, but she, cleaned it, bandaged it, did the whole thing.
We could hear the whole process playing out.
We could hear the whole thing, and she just, it's that problem solving too. Like she's using critical thinking. Okay, what do I have to do? I'm going to assess the wound. Okay, I have to clean it. I have to do these pieces. What's the next step? And all of that is so great. I actually like ripped open my leg the other day, tripping over the dishwasher door was open, and I cut my leg, and I was like, I need a medic. And she was like, I'm here for you, Mom. Sit down. She got it all. Like she didn't realize that you're supposed to like clean the wound with alcohol, not slap the alcohol pad on top of the wound and just leave it there. Yeah. So
we got to work out some of the fine
was
tune.
Like, oh, but anyway, she did a great job, and she kept checking back on me the next couple of days. Mom, how's that Band-Aid doing? I chose a waterproof one because I knew we'd be swimming at Grandma's house. So I wanted to make sure that it was going to stay on the whole weekend just for you. So it's fun it's kind of fun to see them, I don't know, be their own people and do some of that. And then, like you said, use their critical thinking skills in new situations and
those,
very cool.
And that kind of leads into the next idea, which is building confidence and self-esteem, knowing that with these skills that I'm doing, the ability to, sit down and do my math homework is the same type of, patience and stick-to-itiveness that she may need when she's camping alone, with her Girl Scouts and things aren't going right. Or, when she approaches the porta potty that she knows she's going to have to use for the next 7 days and
the biffy,
and she knows I'm going to have to do this. I will have to do it. I'm going to do it. And, it's going to build that confidence that like, oh, I did it. There's so many times where when she would be afraid of doing something, and I think we worked with this with you as well. It's like, you did these other things back over here, like a month ago or 2 months ago. And look at these amazing, difficult things you were able to do here. This is not as big as that. And then immediately you see the eyes kind of brighten up and you're like, oh yeah, you're right. I have the confidence to know that I can do these things, whether it's in homeschool, whether it's in life skills, where, doing the laundry or whatever it might be, learning first aid, learning, building skills or whatnot, or starting a fire like we've been working with her on. These are just, it's not necessarily the material learning that's happening. It's the everything around it, right? The confidence to be able to do something that's, you would feel is above your pay grade, like starting a fire for an 8-year-old, fixing a wound, going to the bathroom in a porta potty and camping, right? These are bigger, scarier things, but she's going to use those experiences to help leverage smaller things. Like maybe she's at, her day camp right now, and she's going to run into something that's a little scary, but she's going to be like, oh, I have the confidence because I know, I've done these things before. I have more patience, or I have, this is not as hard as my math homework earlier today.
Right. I mean, teaching them to be self-reliant, right? Hey, I'm in charge of myself. I'm responsible for myself. I can rely on myself. That was one of the big pieces of the first time we went to Girl Scout camp. Actually, for both of us,
that empowerment, right?
Yeah, we both felt when we came home like, darn it, I am more capable than I thought I was.
You're a strong and capable woman.
Right. So we kept telling the girls all weekend, you are strong, capable women. When they'd ask for help with something they could totally do. And on the way home, she and I both had this conversation about things we'd never done before, things we didn't think we could do, ways in which the weekend surprised us and ways in which we solved problems and kept going. All of that stuff builds self-confidence and empowers you, to take the next steps to go on to something that's greater or more difficult or scarier.
Well, and that's our next item, is preparing for future challenges, kind of knowing that you can be adaptable based on the scenarios, on the skills that you've learned, and being able to map skills and experiences across different disciplines, I think is a great way, like what we were said, like what can you take from your homeschool or your daily chores or your experiences camping in the wilderness, and how does that map to your sports or an argument you have with your friend, or a challenge that you have at school, or if someone's not being, nice or rude on the playground, how do you handle that? And those other skills and patience and all those little skills that you learn along the way, you can apply those in different scenarios. I think that idea of adaptability is there.
Right. And it's also, part of it is like taking the time, the resources and the time that you have, and, finding ways to make things work, right? Being adaptable with your schedule too. So, if our kids have this personal responsibility of things they know they need to get done every day, or, whatever that is, then they kind of know like, okay, well, this is how much time things take. Well, I can do this. Well, I could probably do these two things at the same time. They're starting to kind of plan their day, which as adults, and especially as parents, we have to be super flexible, because I was watching something yesterday about how to use Google Calendar and like try to schedule things for your family and run multiple kids or whatever.
You were watching YouTube videos on Google Calendar?
I was.
That's very on brand for homeschool together.
I was watching. Well, I was watching because I'm really thinking about like, how could we make a better Google Calendar? Anyway, so this woman was like, okay, here's my schedule, my husband's schedule, and my kids each have their own calendars and they're all in different colors. And I'm like, okay, the planner in me I'm jamming with this. Okay. And then she goes, and here is a separate calendar I can just turn off and on. And this is where my time allotment, where I've planned my whole day of everything I'm going to do all day from 5:30 a.m. to the time I go to bed.
15-minute intervals.
Well, she had just like, she has, personal things she has to do. She has work things, whatever. She's meal planning. But she had like blocked out her whole day. I'm like, wow. I mean, my day never goes according to plan. I don't know. Like if I did that, I would be disappointed every night because I have to adapt all the time. I know the things I have to get done in the morning, but golly gee whiz, they never get done in the order that I think they're going to get done in, right? And you always have to find that time to do it.
Adaptable. Yeah.
So when our kids, if we're teaching them personal responsibility too, then they can be aware of, hey, this is what I got to do. This is how much time it's going to take. How can I shuffle? And that adaptability is a huge adult life skill.
And then kind of going with that adaptability is the accountability. I like how we have been using the chores as kind of ways to, create that free time that so you have to do the things you need to do, whether it's homeschool, whether it's practicing your dance or your sports or whatever those things are before you then get the fun things, right? Because if I just gave you all the fun things, for 3 or 4 hours in the morning, and then I sat down at noon and said, okay, let's do homeschool. It's like, that ain't happening.
Yeah, this is like carbs before meat, right? You're going to fill up on French fries and nobody wants a hamburger, right? Ask me how I know, because our 5-year-old loves to do it.
Yeah.
So, it's exactly that kind of thing that, hey, they're accountable. And the other thing is too, like if they don't get the things done that they needed to do later, it's no one's fault but their own.
Exactly.
Right? Because that's something they have to be accountable for.
That is such a life lesson to sit there and wallow in your own, understanding that I did this to myself.
Right. And it's not harsh, certainly. I mean, there's some really easy things.
The stakes are so low in this household.
Yeah, they're really easy. It's like, have you brushed your hair? You haven't. Then you can't go play with the neighbor kid. I mean, it's sometimes it's very low stakes, but man, it's like, and they feel that. They really do. They feel it. And because I think they're more upset about it too.
Because it's also, for them, it is the biggest thing in the world, right? For us, it's like, I could sit inside the house and read a book. It's no big deal. I don't have to hang out with my friends. But for them, that is such a big reward. And, it crushes them, or that it's delayed in some way, right?
That 5-minute delay, it means the world to them that they had to wait.
I don't know what's faster, a photon or a child realizing they're not going to be able to go play with their friends until they finish cleaning up their room. It's like, it's
oh yeah.
Who knows? Yeah.
Right. And so I think that it's funny too, because I know that some days they feel like, we have so many things we have to do. And their list is really so short. They feel very put upon. And, some of this is a little new for our family. So I'm hoping that we grow out of that a little bit. Yeah. But I fear that we may not.
With that accountability kind of goes into this idea of integrity, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know how many times you've probably heard the line like, do the right thing when nobody's watching.
Yeah.
Right. And that's kind of the litmus test of integrity. Are you going to pick up that piece of trash? Are you going to, mop up the little bit of milk that's left on the counter? Or are you going to leave it for later and it's just going to be worse? Right. So many times that we go through in the day, it's like I see something that's dirty or some trash on the floor or, something that I can clean up really fast. You have the integrity of saying, okay, I just need to do this. I need to get it done. And that's that kind of the accountability, but also that self-drive kind of like meet in the middle. And that's kind of like the integrity of like, am I going to do the right thing in the right moment, or am I going to skip out? Right.
Right. And when we come downstairs and we say, hey, did you do these items? And you can see, especially the little one, she's a really poor liar.
Oh, she is.
She's really bad at it. She looks away from you. Yes, mommy. It's very
down,
obvious.
Kind of like covers her eyes. Like, don't look at me.
It's one of those things when like the clearly something has gotten into the trash. You only have one animal in the house, and you look at said canine and say, "Did you get in the trash?" And that dog looks so guilty.
When she threw away her dinner the other night.
Oh yeah, that was a big one. Yes,
I can't believe she did this.
We were.
I was actually very impressed.
Well, yeah,
it was a level of lying that I
we were just telling her she needed to finish her dinner before she could have dessert with the family, and she literally.
This girl has missed more desserts.
She has. She ran into the bathroom.
I have to go to the potty. I have to go potty.
Right, and so she flushes the toilet and spits her food out in the trash. She didn't have the wherewithal to do it in the toilet where we wouldn't find it later, and just think she she ate it.
The little AI machine is learning.
Right. So, and it was like, oh, okay, well, this was your responsibility to, take care of yourself. So be no dessert for you. Oh, she was so bummed.
Oh man.
She was so bummed.
I've eaten more ice cream in front of that kid.
Yeah, and not felt bad about it. She'll be okay. She ate ice cream tonight in front of us. So it was fine.
It's that trustworthiness, I think. Also, when it is rewarded for good and you take that opportunity when, right, you're right, the stakes are low, and then they come through in the integrity with doing the right thing and being trustworthiness without, you want to reward those moments because you want to incentivize the good behavior because it's a hard skill to learn. I mean, these are complex social behaviors that we're having to teach these little kids. I mean, it's not a simple thing to learn. And we have to be, we tell funny stories, but it's like, we understand it's a hard thing.
Yeah,
it's
very hard. We are compassionate. She always gets a bite of the ice cream. Maybe she didn't get the ice cream. Yeah. But, and it's true. There will be times when I'll come downstairs, I'll say to our older daughter, like, did you do the dishwasher? Because that's part of her morning chores is to unload the dishwasher. And I'm expecting that she is dawdled and not done it. And she'll surprise me like, yes, mommy, I got that done. And I did my other things too. And I stop in my tracks. I go over, I give her a kiss. I'm so proud of you. Great job this morning. Like, really want to reward that because, she's being honest. She's taking that, she's being motivated to take care of her responsibilities.
So we kind of covered a bunch of ideas here with like why it matters. But let's talk a little bit about why it benefits homeschooling.
Our children's future employers will thank us.
Thank us. I know. Whoever those
for
people
all
are.
of this work.
Or maybe it's going to be them though.
Maybe they'll be entrepreneurs. They'll thank us later.
They'll thank us later. Yeah.
So our homeschool. Let's bring it back to the core.
Yeah, absolutely. So number one is it's going to enhance the learning environment.
Well, that is the hope.
Well, I hope so.
That's what we're going for.
More organized spaces and efficient use of time, which I think is for me I don't know. I have never really been a very fastidious type of person. I have always been the guy who stacks his clothes on the top of the dresser, not make the bed at night, maybe leave a few dishes back.
I'm not this person.
But I tell you what, something has happened. I don't know. My brain has rewired at like in my mid to late 30s. And I have become the dishes need to be done every night. Bed needs to be made. Clothes need to be put away. Yeah. I mean,
it drives us crazy.
It drives me crazy now. And I was never that way.
Last night you're like, can we just, is it okay?
Sweetie.
Yeah. He looks over at me and he's,
can we get like 30 minutes of family time and we just clean up? I'm losing control.
Right. He was like, can we just stop everyone and just, I don't know, just like clean for a few minutes? He looked very uncomfortable about the whole thing. Like it was really bugging you.
It was bugging me all day.
And so we like all started to clean up. The girls and I were cleaning all these rooms. We're going in and out of the room you're in and you're just like looking on your phone. And eventually I'm like, we've all been doing the family cleanup that you were freaking out about, right? Like the whole family you're like, what? You were like so into it. You were so zoned. You were like, oh, I didn't know we were doing that now. I'm like, you haven't heard me yelling at these girls to go clean that area. I'm going to clean this. Bring me your dirty clothes, right? So we had done like 20 minutes of it and you were oblivious.
I got up and started doing my portion.
But I saw the stress, right? Yeah. And so that's
the
true.
Organized spaces, I think, is a really that really just grates on me.
So when we give our daughter, if we can give our kids some responsibility over pieces of their homeschooling, then the hope is that they will want to be more organized about that because they won't want to lose time. Yeah. They want to be more efficient with it, right? Because our daughter is all about like, how can I get done with the things I need to do so that I can go, so you guys will get off my back and I can do what I want to do. And it's not like we nag her all the time or anything, but she's really focused on the things that bring her joy. She wants to listen to her Yodo and she wants to do her Lego, or she wants to draw or something while she listens, or she really wants to play with friends or go in the pool. I mean, she's got things she's just very focused on each day. Yep. And she doesn't want to waste time not being able to find stuff. So it's been funny because it's her responsibility to read every day, for example. Her 20 minutes of reading, we don't care when she does it, but she needs to do it. And it's her responsibility to do it by the end of the day. And the first few days when we didn't we had the book and we knew where it was and we said, okay, and it is now reading time. And we handed her the book and she went and read. Those first few days when it was her responsibility, She had no idea where that book was because she had left it somewhere. It hadn't, because we weren't the ones on it, right? It had gotten lost. And then she ended up spending all this time looking for the book. And then she'd finally find it. She'd sit down to read and she goes, well, can I count that? No, nope. You weren't actually reading. You were running around the house looking for an item that you misplaced, right? That wasn't actually reading time. And she's like, well, shoot, So now when she goes to find something, the book is always in the same spot. Yeah, she knows where it is because she doesn't want to waste that time. So that's the hope, is that we can encourage our kids and that we'll have maybe pie in the sky, a more organized homeschool environment. I know that may be impossible. It may only happen in small pieces, but I'll take those pieces because the rest of the house is a disaster. I'll take those.
I noticed this too because we're kind of going through the Math Mammoth review. We're not back into Right Start yet. We're like 6 pages from the end of Math Mammoth 3. And I'll sometimes see her doing the work, but she'll get distracted. She'll mess with something else, or she'll be staring at what me and her sister are working on. And I'll keep telling her, hey, it's been 20 minutes. I only asked you to do 2 pages today, and we haven't finished the first page. You're missing out on a lot of fun time today. Maybe you should get back to it. Okay, I'll get back to it. And then at the very end, like if she has a good day and it takes her 25 minutes to get her, math pages done. And I'm like, hey, great job. You're done early. Okay. Would you like to go do something else? Something fun? I'll give you a 20-minute break. If you want to go listen to your Yodo and do something else, you can do that. But then some days it's 40 minutes, 45 minutes in, we're getting close to an hour. It's 2.5 pages. And you're just like, come on, what are you doing? You're burning a lot of time, and she's starting to get frustrated. I'm like, we're losing track. Maybe we'll stop today and we'll pick up tomorrow, and I'll just tack it on to tomorrow. And she goes, oh no, I don't want to tack it on. And so she'll, boom, all of a sudden it's done. Right. So she's starting to get the idea, but I do have to have a little bit of a dialogue with her because I don't think it's very intuitive to them when they're thinking about timelines and how long things take. They just get into it. They're just kind of horse blinders, and they're just they're doing whatever they're doing. So having that little bit of a dialogue and say, hey, today's work took you about 35 minutes. And that's really good. That's, it's perfect timing. You did a great job. Right. Or today it took you about 50 minutes. And I think you got a little distracted. Yeah, I got a little distracted there. I go, okay, remember, we got to get back onto task and let's get this done so that you can move on to something else. And especially in this, which is very much a review. So it's easier for her. Keeping her on task is difficult, but really acutely, talking about the organization and then the time savings, I think helping her understand how long things typically should take. I'm not talking about getting your physics, assignment in college, and maybe that might take 40 hours or something like that. This is just a couple of pages.
Hours.
Yeah. 5 problems. Whole week. Crazy. I know. It's crazy. I blacked out that time in my life. Anyway, so having her understand that time that she's putting into these things, and then appreciating, what she gets out of it on the other end, which is, I get more time to do this or more time to do this. I know we've interviewed a number of parents as well, in all of our interviews where they've had older students, and they talk about this when they become teenagers and they get towards, high school and a little bit later in high school, how these kids go out and they, they'll do all their homeschool in 2 hours. So they can go off and then do their, they'll have a side gig or some, other skills that they're trying to learn, computer programming or, running a small farm or something like that, where they get all their homeschool done in an hour or two. And then they're off doing the things that they want to work on, right? Whatever those things might be. I think this is that time where we start to, teach our children how to do this and teach, understanding the time savings. I think managing your time is a really difficult task. And it's one of those things where I joke about it with basketball. Maybe basketball analogies, I'll always have them.
Yeah.
But there are skills.
Put on the bingo card.
Yeah, it's funny. I know. We'll put on. Has Matt had a basketball analogy today? There are skills that you teach, an 8-year-old on the basketball court that you'll hear a pro coach yelling at NBA players to remember. It's the exact same thing. Box out. Find your defender. Very simple things like, why aren't you hedging? Why aren't you doing this? Or why aren't you, helping here? Things that you will tell these kids, these guys or women 20 something years, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's still a hard thing to learn, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think
Or to remember all the time.
yeah, time management, I think, is one of those, it's a skill that like, I think it's a hard thing. I mean, a lot of adults struggle with time management, right?
It's a very
It's
difficult
not
thing.
an easy thing to learn.
And it's a thing that, you know, I mean, I deal with time management is just like a giant piece of my life, right? In corporate, and I manage teams of people.
That's a great point, yeah.
And I do schedules and figuring that all out. It is really complex. I think the key is that we're starting to slowly build the pieces.
Yeah, right.
And we're doing it in a really, you know, kind of micro ways where, you know, the stakes aren't too high. We're not just giving our daughter her entire homeschool, you know, schedule and saying, hey, how you want to do all this? Eventually, I think, you know, we will say, hey, the goals of the week are, we want to do this much math and this much reading and whatever. And you can, you know, we can work on these together and you can get these done as fast as you want, or you can string it out over the whole week or whatever you want to do. Like when she's older, we don't need to do that math or reading every single day, those lesson parts, you know. I'd love to give that to her. But right now we're at the, you know, we're kind of at the base level where it's just a few things. And I think you've got to build that. And hopefully, I mean, the goal is by the time she's an adult and she goes off to college, when that's the first time when a lot of students have to start managing their time. And a lot of kids, even kids who were great in high school, really fall down in college because they haven't had to manage their time like that before.
And a lot of times you'll see a lot of kids who go through kind of those high school years, whether you're in public school, private school, or whatever, it's almost like they're fish swimming in channels.
Mm-hmm.
And the minute they get into college, they're swimming in the open ocean.
Yeah.
And there's no walls. You know, like they're really good at swimming, right? And they're really good at swimming in one direction. But then all of a sudden, when there's a lot of opportunity, they may swim in the wrong direction. Yeah. And I think what we're trying to teach our kids is, you know, not only when you get in the open ocean, being able to look ahead and say, I need to swim to that direction.
Yeah. How do I get there?
How do I get there? And I think that's a lot of challenges in that respect, especially when you get to college, because, you know, a lot of these kids are in high school and their days are just maxed from like 7 to 7 or so 7 to 8. And there's no room to move. You just have to go to the next thing. Right. And then I gotta study. I gotta take the test. I'll do all these things. I think homeschool gives us a lot more freedom, which is more akin to kind of a college experience where you get out of high school where your days are just maxed. And all of a sudden you're in college and you're like, I got 7 classes and I only go to class like 15 hours a week and I'm free the rest of the time. Right. What do I do at that time? Well, you should be studying and you know, doing all that type of stuff. But
and also finding your passions,
finding
and
other passions, and getting interests, and following clubs and things, and stuff. All those things. I think college is more similar to kind of like, you know, being an adult.
But it can be overwhelming.
It can, it can, it absolutely can, and it's really that transition, and can we put them on the right skills as they're going out? So it's obviously a big challenge. So obviously the next one would be looking at us as educators, reducing parental stress. So.
And this is the goal.
Having to hound. You know, for me, I've always been an employee. If you're my boss and I'm your worker, I'm very much a hands-off type of person. Like I will go, you give me the tasking, you give me my responsibilities, and I will fill that space. And you don't really need to do anything more than just check in once in a while. Like I do not like to micromanage, and that's never been a thing for me. I don't like to be micromanaged, and I don't like to micromanage other people. Being a homeschool parent means I have to micromanage a lot. And
well, because they go off the rails quickly, right? You can't just give them the ball and say, run with it. Yeah, because they're young and they're learning.
It's sort of like those,
give them those swim lanes, right?
Yeah. It's sort of like, you know, when I had a kid, I'm like, holy cow, you realize I don't hang around with kids. I don't hang around with babies. I got to take care of a baby. How the heck do I know how to do this? Right?
Yeah, that was a little bit of a scary moment.
It was. But this is very similar where it's like, I got to educate a kid. I don't know, educate a kid. You know, it's like, I've never done that before. And like, how much do you have to hound them? And how much do you have to, you know, be empathetic? And like, you have to really balance that at the beginning. I think, you know, I'm like 5 years into this thing. So I'm kind of like, I understand it. Now I have to relearn everything with my youngest, but reducing that stress on you as the educator, because really in these earlier years that we've been talking about, it's a lot of hands-on, a lot of one-on-one, you know, kind of that Socratic method where you're going back and forth. Eventually it becomes a little bit more hands off, and they're doing more of the activity. And hopefully by the end, she'll be going to maybe running start or something of that nature, taking college classes and while she's finishing up the high school requirements and, doing things on her own. Right.
Yeah.
And that's the hope, right?
Well, I mean, we talked about it at the beginning of this episode.
Because I can't be there at university telling you to do your homework and get your home stuff done. Yeah.
Well, the load increases every year as they get older, but then, so we have to offload some items onto them, right? And decreasing our stress. It's that sharing of that responsibility, because that's the problem. It's not like we are just teaching our kids and we go somewhere else and we teach them and that's it. We teach them at home. So our home responsibilities don't just get done by somebody else. No, it's like, hey, I'm going to show you how to do this math problem right here, and then I'm going to go do the dishes. So I have to put in the laundry, or I got to pull stuff out for dinner, get that ready. Like, there's other things that have to happen.
Well, also
in your day.
The amount of homeschool or the amount of schooling activities are going to increase over time. Right.
Totally.
So when we're doing with these early learners, the kindergartners, the pre-K kids, the first graders, man, they're maxed out at like 90 minutes.
Yeah. If
well,
that.
When you get the 16-year-old, maybe they're doing 3 or 4 hours a day.
Well,
right?
They have a lot more subjects they've got to cover.
I can't sit there at the kitchen table for 4 straight hours and to get you through your work, because you're right. I gotta make meals. I gotta clean. Yeah. I gotta do all these other things. The dog needs to eat.
The dog does need to eat. She's looking at us like,
she's looking at us.
I do need to eat.
I've already eaten today, guys. But I'm giving you the eyes that if you might make a mistake and feed me twice.
Give me a snack. There's the tail. So yeah, I have a friend who said her goal was that she wanted her kids to be like autonomous. I think she said by age 13.
Wow, that's great.
She wanted them to be like homeschooling autonomous. Not that they didn't need, not that she wouldn't help them with curriculum choices and answer questions for them and be there to give them guidance and all that stuff. It's not like they're like on their own, but just that, you don't have to be like hands-on in the trenches with them by that point. So if we need them to be there, then we have to start now.
Yeah, I know.
With the ramp, because you can't just overnight they hit 12 or 13 and be like, and here you go, buddy. Here's all your stuff. So we have to start that slow climb and start sharing that responsibility. And honestly, when we have more than one kid,
you have to.
We not only do you have to, but in some ways it's not fair to that second one, because the first one got all this attention. And then the second one comes along. It's like, okay, well, now I got to split my attention between the two of you. That second child deserves as much, homeschooling,
one-on-one
focus, and you can't give that if you can't get the other child to be able to work, maybe independently for a little bit, or they have some other things to keep them busy, so that management thing, because we owe that to our younger daughter too. Absolutely. To have that experience.
Absolutely. I agree with you. And that's been definitely something I've actually been enjoying lately, where, I can send my older one off to go do some activity. And then now I can spend that, that fun time with her to educate. Next idea coming off of the reducing our parental stress, going into, if we do these skills, it is going to encourage that lifelong learning, whether it's the curiosity, the initiative, the ownership of their education. We kind of talked a little bit about that, and owning their education, I think, is the big transfer that we're trying to give to them. Is, obviously we want to get them to, get out of high school, hopefully go off to college or technical school or whatever is right for your kids. Or into the workforce, or whatever works for your family and your child, but taking ownership of their education. And we know education is a lifelong experience. It's not just sitting here for the next 12 years till they're 18 and saying, "Good luck, buddy." We want them to feel like they can constantly grow and constantly change and pivot and become, do something new if they have an opportunity to go do this wonderful job, or have this opportunity to develop these new skills, pivot in their career, hopefully maybe go get some more, earn more money or start a business and stuff. We don't want them to feel like where they are at 18 is where they'll be at 88.
Yeah,
and that's true. And we don't want those the 70 years in between there to be stagnant. We want there's going to be hills, there's going to be valleys, but we want them to feel like they have the tools necessary to make that a meaningful experience.
Right. Well, and by giving them the responsibility to, have some role in our homeschooling,
Yeah.
For example, giving this reading time to our daughter.
Mm-hmm.
With that, because we're not dictating that, she's choosing her own book, and she's also choosing when to exit a book and start a new book that, whereas before we'd be like, hey, this is the reader that we, even if she always had input in what the reader was, but it would be like, hey, how's that coming? Are you finished with that yet? And so, she was kind of forced to maybe even stick with a book that she didn't tell us she didn't like it, but maybe it wasn't what she would have chosen. Mm-hmm. Now she feels empowered because she owns reading time. She can do it where she wants to do it, how she wants. She can read what she wants.
She can go longer if she wants to.
Right. And she can read it any time of day. She doesn't have to wait for us to say, hey, it's reading time now. Some morning she'll get up and she'll say, hey, Mommy, I already did my reading this morning because it was on a really good chapter and I wanted to see what happened to the boxcar children. And so she'll read it and she'll be all excited. So I think you're right that we're trying to get them to be natural lifelong learners and have that curiosity and that desire to pursue the things that they're interested in. So
because we know when kids are interested, or adults who are interested in things, we will go above and beyond what we would necessarily do on a daily basis if we didn't enjoy those tasks. There's something about the intrinsic motivation, the things you're passionate about, that draws you through maybe valleys that you might get into, especially if it's a skill you're passionate about. I want to learn this sport, or I want to learn this, candy making, or I want to learn to be a better cook. I have a friend who's telling me, hey, Matt, believe it or not, I'm trying to be a better cook. I'm starting to make meals. And he described some meals to me and I was like, okay. But I was like, you know what? Awesome, man. And if you have any questions, I'm here to help you. I'm big into the meal prepping and I love to make meals and ahead of time. And that's a thing I like, but I'm cool to see that you're pushing through and you're doing these things. For me, it's working out. I love working out. I'll grind. I will grind and hurt and sweat all day long, lifting that heavy thing from there to there and back again. I love doing that. There's something about it, but whatever it is, those things that you're interested in, it's going to draw you through whatever challenges you meet. And then kind of incorporating all the things we said before is, that intrinsic motivation to be committed to lifelong learning. It's going to give you the meaning in your life to get through some difficult times. It's going to give you those skills that you're going to apply to other difficult times. And I think, we can only hope that our children can grow and develop and become bigger, better people. Yeah. Having these skills and these habits.
Right. And they have ownership of this too. So they take more pride in the sense of accomplishments that they do get from it, which then that's this positive feedback loop, right? They're happy about what they did. They take pride in it. They want to do more. They want to do better. And so it's just, it all equals wanting to achieve their own academic goals. We talked with our daughter quite a bit about, what does she want to do? She's just like really, really excited about when can she read Wings of Fire, like Wings of Fire or Harry Potter, like how long until we get to that point. So we're, hey, we can help you map out the stepping stones, but you have to take the responsibility to work yourself to that point. And she's like, okay, she's very focused on her own goals. So giving our kids that ownership so they can find their own goals and then pursue them that's the hope.
Yeah. And kind of them realizing that if I could get you there, I still wouldn't do it. I still want you to do it for yourself because I think you'll grow better as a person if you do it yourself. I always had a boss. It was a very terrible analogy, but he always said, "I'll give you enough rope to hang yourself," which was an interesting way of saying that. But it was liberating for me, saying like, "Oh, I could go off and go be creative," and I could make.
But he's gonna hang you out to dry. That's how I read that.
No. He goes. I'm gonna give enough rope to hang yourself, but I'll cut it when you're falling.
Okay. Well, that second part's important because otherwise you'd be hanging.
And that was the thing. Because I want you to be creative. I want you to have skin in the game. I want it to be your thing.
That's cool.
And it's okay if you fail. I'll back you, because I think the act of you doing that work is going to benefit us. If not here, over here, right? Because you'll feel like you're empowered enough to do this. And I feel if you are empowered enough, you're going to do good work. and I don't have to worry about it. It's kind of like giving you that green light, that red light to, or the green light to go.
I love how like men communicate differently, because like a boss would never communicate that way with me.
All of that,
because that would to me, I'd be like, I don't want that to happen. I don't want to have that much rope. Wait a minute.
Harold, that all came, all those words, it was just a fist bump. And that's all of us.
Yeah. Men communicate so much differently than women. It's like, it's not even funny.
So kind of going with, obviously the encouraging the lifelong learning, kind of building off of the parental stress is the next idea, which is strengthening family bonds. And I love this idea of,
right.
It's a team effort.
Everyone pulls their own weight. Then they feel like they're a contributing member of the family team.
And there's that kind of mutual respect. Also, there's like, as a parent, I don't know about you guys, but for me, seeing my daughters do things for themselves that they're proud of, that they've worked hard towards, like seeing how far my daughter has come into reading, knowing the amount of time we've put into this, knowing the amount of effort and the challenge that's come along, and then to see her excited about it just makes me respect her even more. Like I just, and then that carries forward, which is like, man, I am so proud of you. I know you're going to do great things. If you just put your mind to it. It's an experience now that I can leverage whenever she runs into something else that's difficult. And then also hopefully she has the respect to me, like, wow, this was hard. And I know Daddy worked hard on this with me, but he stuck with me the whole time. He never gave up, always was trying different things. And we start to have that kind of like team, like the band of brothers type of idea where we're in this together. And I've always got your back, and I'm always here to support you, and hopefully you can see that, and that builds your confidence up, and then you respect me, and we have this kind of a mutual respect, which grows trust and all the other fun things.
Right. All that goodness comes from that, because, when everyone has their own role too, I think this has been true, especially since these last few weeks, we've required more of our daughters, in terms of home things. They've realized just how much work we put into stuff, and they're like, oh, wow. It's like, well, it really takes all of us to make this ship float. Yeah. And, they're realizing through the things they're doing, like, oh gosh, Mom, you have to do all of that? You do that all the time? It's like, yeah. It's like, oh, okay. So they're gaining a deeper understanding of and respect for what we're doing too. Now, that's like very pie in the sky to say that it's like that all the time, but there are moments where they do say, oh, wow, Mom, wow, I didn't realize you had to do all that. They may forget it 5 minutes later, but there was a moment there that there was respect.
I'll take it.
Take the moment, and hopefully they like internalize somewhere. Overall, the whole goal of this is just to say that the efforts that we undertake towards fostering personal responsibility for our kids, it's worthwhile. It's worthwhile in our relationship with them, and the way in the harmony of our family, in our homeschool, and we can see the benefits in all of these different areas of them having that responsibility. I mean, it goes into their friendships and their other relationships in their lives too. So it's all worth it. But it's a challenge, which is why next week we're going to talk about some practical ideas and things we've been using, and some things that have failed. Yeah. You can hear from us about what didn't work for us, but maybe we
want to hear what you guys are doing as well.
Yeah, but maybe those things will work for you. I've done a bunch of research on lots of ideas on how to help our kids on this personal responsibility journey. So hopefully this was helpful to get started, and stick around for part 2 as we talk some practical tips. Thanks so much for joining us today and making us a part of your homeschool journey. Please engage with us on social media. Join our Homeschool Together podcast group on Facebook, and find us at Homeschool Together Podcast on Instagram. We'd love to hear your feedback, questions, and recommendations. Until next time,
happy homeschooling!